Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. It's great to see all of you. We thought we would be talking to ourselves this morning, but thank you all for braving this air quality condition to join us here today for our annual Closing and Accounting Seminar. It's really great to see all of you in person. It's always great talking to you, whether through email or on the phone throughout the year, so we definitely look forward to this time of the year just to get together and make sure that we're all on board and excited for year end. And I know you are. It would be great that if you were remote today, I would be expecting that everyone is behind their computers just banging away at all those documents and getting those accruals in, the last of your ACLs. But, you know, thank you all for just being here, and we truly appreciate all of you. As always, you know, we cannot do this process as far as getting the annual comprehensive financial report done timely by the city charter's deadline without you, so we greatly appreciate the support and the cooperation of all of you here today. You know, folks always ask us, well, why don't you just do it online, Jackie? And I'm like, is it that you all just like dressing up? I'm like, no, you know, the folks that manage the money, we don't get out often enough. We're too busy watching the money. So we needed an opportunity and some reason to come on out, so this is our reason to come out. But my name is Jacqueline Thompson, for those of you who do not know me. I am the Deputy Controller for the Bureau of Accountancy at the Controller's Office and a proud public servant for 23 years, although I know I look 23. But 23 years and counting, and in the same office, the same controller's office, so I'm grateful for that and super thankful to have a job. Okay. So our great controller, he will be joining us shortly, but until then, I just wanted to take the opportunity to recognize, and where is he? Mike Ryan from Grant Thornton is joining us. All right, Mike, get up and wave, come on. So, Mike, I said get up and wave. Get up and wave, Mike, up and wave. All right. That's Mike Ryan representing Grant Thornton, the city's independent auditors who perform the citywide financial statement and single audit. So whenever you see an email requesting supporting documentation, think of that smile. Mike, show them again. Show them the smile. Think of that smile, and you will recognize and say, yeah, he seemed nice. Let me answer it right away. All right? Thank you so much, Mike, for joining. Appreciate you being here. So I'm going to pretend that I know where the clicker is. I have no idea. It's somewhere. You have it. Okay, click with me. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. So, this is just a reminder, and then I'm going to get off of this stage because we have so much ahead today. But I just wanted to talk briefly about prior year payables, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. This is really just a reminder because we paid so much close attention last year to working with all of you and OMB, and I thank Dan Hyman and Kathy Coletti for their collaboration on this, and working through the prior year receivables, making sure that we have supporting documentation for all of that. So the same attention we paid to prior year receivables, we're asking that you pay it to the payables. Payables feel lonely. We want to make sure we give the payables some attention. So the same amount of due diligence that you took in reviewing all of your prior year receivables to make sure they're collectible, you still need them, the same amount of attention we're expecting on the payable side. So you received letters from our office, our accruals unit back in May, and we're really just asking that you submit those letters just indicating, yes, we still need this payable still open, we still need this accrual open, and because we still have some payments to be made. That's all. No big push, no big sell. It's just pay attention. All right. So moving on. Now I'm going to talk about directives, and again, really quick, because I don't want to be up here too long, because I think we have some good information coming today. Next slide, please. Thank you. So directives, we were very proud to issue Directive 10 earlier this year on charges to the Capital Projects Fund. For those of you who utilize capital monies a lot, you're welcome. This change and the updates made does allow for greater flexibility, and so we're very happy about that, and we worked really closely with OMB's General Counsel team. Definite shout out to Scott Orley, even though he's no longer there, and Jeff Werner and Sean Gallagher for their help and collaboration on this. It was great experience working with the City Hall Capital Reform team, the task force there, and just having this joint effort to make sure that we allow for greater usage of capital dollars. And so we're definitely happy about that. If you have not seen it, have a take a look at it. Take a look on our website. It's there. Any questions, of course, feel free to ask. Next slide, please. And as always, I'm just trying to give you a heads up of what's to come, right? These are the directives that our office is currently reviewing and taking a look at. And so hopeful expectations of revisions to come in the next fiscal year. And as we're talking directives, you'll see the contact up there for the directives mailbox. As always, any questions, inquiries, feel free to send them our way. There's a lot of questions that we receive on Directive 6. And as you all know, that's the directive that allows us to serve you breakfast this morning. And we know it might not be the most popular directive because, well, the rates are low and, I would love to open up a griddle, area and have some pancakes and bacon and all that other stuff available, but that directive just allows us to serve the minimum. But for Directive 6, there's always a lot of questions on travel, meals, reimbursements. And so, we're trying to be extra helpful and in doing our due diligence to be able to utilize an event like this as a knowledge sharing forum. Each year we try to make this seminar a greater experience for all of you so that you leave here equipped to do your jobs. So for today, we've asked one agency in particular that I know is always on top of things, and I know they're always looking to do their due diligence in complying with directives, particularly Directive 6. I've asked HPD, Housing Preservation and Development Department, to come and just share with us best practices on their end and then what they do as far as managing reimbursements from staff on their side. It's always good to be able to share information amongst each other, even though we're agencies of different sizes, but we can always learn from each other, and that's what we wanted to take the opportunity to do today. Our office is not the only office that knows what to do and, very experienced, but definitely, we should definitely utilize the experience in this room and try to gain as much from it as possible. So I'm going to introduce right now Lorena Corey, is the Director of Fiscal Procurement at HPD and has 13 years of public servant experience serving government of Albania and the city of New York. Now talk about universal knowledge here and experience. She joined HPD just a couple of months ago and handles non-construction related micro purchases. And before HPD, she worked at Mox and was quite involved in the Passport Initiative, which we're all very familiar with. And we have Dilette Gonzalez, who will also be joining her, and is the Director of Payment Operations for about 10 years of experience in public service with the City of New York, and also joined HPD not too long ago, and is a former Comptroller's Office employee. And so I'm going to ask that you please give a warm welcome to these two individuals as they come so graciously to share their knowledge as far as how they handle operations on their end with respect to Directive 6, what works, what doesn't work, and maybe you'll gain something from that and you can take it back to your offices. So please give them a round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm Lorena Corey, Director of Fiscal Procurement Unit at HPD. It's really a great pleasure to be here, and thank you, Jackie, for having us. It's good to share with you how we at HPD are managing the expenditures that are covered under Directive 6. And honestly, I do believe, as Jackie mentioned, that this conference is a great platform for all of us to meet with each other, to share our experiences, our practices, tips and tricks, and maybe implement those that may help us be more proactive, more efficient in what we do every day at our job. So today we will be talking about, we'll give you a very quick overview about Directive 6, what it stands for. We'll talk about employee reimbursement requests, and we'll share a few challenges that we have seen over the years. And of course, then share the practices that we do have in place and have implemented. They're helping us to do our work while remaining in compliance with Directive 6, but not only this directive, with all rules and regulations. So for those who maybe never heard about Directive 6 before, because maybe it's not part of your work, or maybe because you joined Citi very recently, Directive 6 is the directive that governs the expenditures for employee travel, meals, lodging, and other miscellaneous agency expenses like light refreshments, as Jackie mentioned, licenses, professional memberships, subscriptions, and many more. I'm not going in specific, but what I really want to highlight or to recommend for you all, this directive is one of those directives that I think it's good for all of us to read, even if it's not part of your job. And the reason why I say that is because this directive regulates employee reimbursement requests. So it's good for you to know what are considered appropriate situations where we may spend out-of-pocket money for an agency-related activity, and of course to know this allowable maximum cost. So I really recommend at your free time, take a look at this directive and know more about it. Now, at HPD is a large agency. We do have more than 2,000 employees, and I think for agencies like ours, like large agencies, when it comes to maintaining, to track this kind of expenditures, of course, review and approve, it becomes a bit more challenging, right? But we at HPD do have a system in place that we think is keeping us on the right track. So the slide that you are seeing right now is an illustration of this system. In general, right, when an employee or a program identifies a need for a good or service, they will send this request, of course, to their supervisors, and then for HPD, they will send this request to the procurement liaisons. So to maintain, as I mentioned earlier, to maintain these expenditures, we do have a procurement liaison assigned to each division at our agency, and this is our first level of review for this type of expenditures. And also these procurement liaisons do help us maintain and track this request, because you can receive them from all over the place. Whenever they receive a request for such a service or expenditure, they of course they do have a procurement background. They'll do their review. They'll secure the approvals are in place. Of course, we'll make sure that there is budget and funds are allocated accordingly for this type of expenditures. We'll put all the paperwork together, and then they will send this to our micro-purchase unit. I'm mentioning micro-purchase unit because, again, we are talking about Directive 6, right? And at least for HPD, this type of expenditures don't go over $20,000, so micro-purchase unit will deal with this. We do have two main profiles that help us in processing and tracking and reviewing and approving these expenditures. We do have our travel coordinator, who is the individual who will process all requests for travel and lodging. And then we do have our P-card administrator, who will review other type of requests related, again, to expenditures for Directive 6. And then based on different criteria like timing, amount, vendor, and other criteria, we'll take a decision if a purchase order will be cut for it, will be created, or if there will be the use of P-card. So this is the process in general, right? This is the system that is helping us controlling this type of expenditures. And of course, we always have in mind separation of duties. So we are very careful here and when we split the tasks and the work to review and process this request, and of course, then ending up paying them. While I'm not going to talk about each expenditure that this directive covers, I would like to share with you how we are handling expenditures and expenditures for travel and lodging. So as I mentioned, requests will go first to our procurement liaisons, and then when they have the paperwork together, they will send this request to our travel coordinator. The review of this request, of course, will be made always referring to Directive 6, to GSA rates, travel policies, and other rules and regulations that may apply. But our travel coordinator will not process a request, will not do booking and reservations if the approvals are not secured. And in this slide here, I have listed for you the approvals that we at HPD require in order to process a request for travel. Our travel coordinator will make sure that the form that is sent to him does have, of course, the requester's signature, but most importantly, employee supervisor signature. We'll make sure that there is the budget approval. Budget is aware and has approved this expenditure. We'll make sure that the division's assistant commissioner has also reviewed and approved this request. And each travel request at our agency is also approved by our commissioner. There are other situations where we may need additional approvals, and these are situations where the request is for an international travel, or when the cost for the trip and lodging is paid by a third party. And in these cases, our travel coordinator makes sure that COIB and mayor's office approvals are secured as well. Only after these approvals are in place, then our travel coordinator will, as I said, refer to Directive 6 and to GSA rates and other rules and regulations, and then will complete booking and reservations. One thing that I would like to highlight that we try to do at our agency, and I'm sure you probably are doing the same thing, but I would like to share this with you. We do communicate with our divisions and try to let them know the importance of having the request and all paperwork ahead of time, just because this not only gives time to each approver to review and approve, but also it gives time to our travel coordinator to make booking and reservation ahead of time to have a chance to secure better prices, right, with the main goal to lower the cost of this expenditure. So this is how we at HPD are dealing with requests for travel and lodging. Another part that is, or another activity I can say that is regulated by Directive 6 are employee reimbursement requests. And if you recall, I mentioned earlier that I recommend you all take some time whenever you have free time and read this directive, because it does regulate employee requests for reimbursement, which means that it lists all appropriate situations where we can make an out-of-pocket expense, as well as maximum cost and other specifics that we need to keep in mind when we incur this type of expenditures. At our agency, so although we do our best, right, to secure these services through procurement actions and procurement micro-purchase unit. There, of course, are many situations where our employees will have to use their money to secure a service. We do have people working out in the field. There can be several situations, and that's fine because Directive 6 allows us to do that. And the most frequent requests we have seen over the years are requests for mileage when a personal vehicle is used, for refreshments or modest meals, car fare, license cost, and maybe more. But we are very careful when we review and when we approve the reimbursements of this cost. We always keep in mind segregation of duties. We make sure that we have the appropriate levels of review and approval, and my colleague Dalette will talk more about it when she comes to share more information. But we always refer to Directive 6, to GSA rates, and other rules and regulation based on the type of reimbursement. Although we are doing our best to be on the right track, we cannot, we know there may be situations when we are maybe not in a comfortable position, so there are challenges that we have seen over the years. My colleague Dalet will come up here and she will share for you a few challenges, will give a few examples on the challenges that we have seen over the years related to this reimbursement request, and then she'll go over a few of our best practices to share them with you. Thank you all.
Good morning to all. My name is Dalet Gonzalez. I'm the Director of Payment Operation at HPD. After listening to Lorena, you could have heard all the steps that we incurred all the way from program up to it gets to our unit where we're in charge of making the payment. The payment, we make sure that is accurate and paid in a timely manner. Some of the challenges that we do find are the sales taxes and GSA rates. So sometimes the employee may fail to request a tax exempt form before doing a purchase, and that will not allow us to reimburse the sales taxes because we are a city agency and we are tax exempt. GSA rates. It is very important that we refer to Directive 6 to ensure that we are paying correctly rates, as to each state will have their own rates per rates for hotels and different expenditures. Sorry, I do not know how to. My apologies. Thank you. So our best practices, what are the practices that we have in place to ensure that these payments are done accurately? We do meetings, procurement liaisons make meetings to ensure that everybody is educated about the Directive 6. We allow the allowable expenditures. We make sure that we educate everybody as to the allowable expenditures and remind everybody that they need to request a tax exempt form. Some of the other best practices that we do have is we do provide standard forms for employees to fill out with the expenditures. Once they incur the expenditures, they need to submit supporting documents as receipts, email communications, and justification for any expenditures incurred. The forms will need the employee's signature, as well as the supervisor signature, and many other signatures for approval. Once these forms are approved, are sent to the Accounts Payable Division, where our accountants make sure that these documents have been signed, have been approved, and are reconciled with all the receipts received. And that's the first level on the accounts payable. Once our accountants make sure that the amounts are correct, that they follow Directive 6 in terms of rates, we then send it to our pre-audit unit, where we have a second hand of accountants give a second look to the expenditures and reconcile, make sure that these expenditures are okay to be reimbursed. Once that is approved, we do have a system in place. HPD has worked together with the Department of Finance in placing a system where our employees could get paid in a fast manner. The program is called JP Morgan Quick Pay, and this is an operating account that was placed separately from all the other accounts. It mimics Zelle, so we could pay our employees as fast as possible once the payment is approved. If you would want more information on this process, you could reach at HPD in terms of this process that we have set up in order to pay our employees in a fast manner. Forms. On the Directive 6, you can see at the end that you will find forms that you may be able to use as a standard form to be able to provide to your employees for reimbursement purposes. We also have our own internal forms that we provide standard for all of the programs according to our needs. If you were to need any other information, reach out to our agency. We'll be more than likely to help you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much again, HPD, for coming and for sharing your knowledge. I don't know about the rest of you, but I learned a lot. I love the idea of the travel coordinator. I love the idea of the pre-audit unit. Definitely good tools and strategies to be implemented concerning Directive 6. So thank you again for that and for coming and sharing. So now I am going to ask the greatest controller in the universe, and I'm not just saying that because he's my boss, but definitely Controller Brad Lander is one of the controllers you will notice that actually cares about the people, the workers, the laborers, those of us that's doing the work behind the scenes. He is not coming to talk about roll and lapse process because I don't think he really knows what that is in FMS, but he is coming to say hello. Everyone, please give him a round.
All right, now I feel challenged to try to do the roll and lapse process. First, I would just want to say a big good morning and thank you to everyone who is in the room. Like, this is, it would have been easy for you to say, you know what, there's an air quality emergency today, and I've done this in the past, and I'll get the materials. And the fact that this many people of our financial officers and the fiscal staff that run our city and our agencies who are responsible for accounting and making sure that we're telling the truth about our resources and getting them where they need to be, that you guys didn't do that and that you showed up here this morning is just an extraordinary credit to every single one of you. And to the folks who work for the city of New York, you know, I think it's easy for folks on the outside to have a kind of a cynical point of view. And I think if they knew that this set of folks said, you know what's so important is getting started together in the right way on the FY23 audit so that we can tell the truth about where we landed the year and people can have confidence in the numbers that we're presenting so we can move forward productively, they would know that their city is really being run by a great and dedicated set of people. So we just all give yourselves a hand for being here this morning. I want to say a big thank you to our partners, to FISA OPA. I visited FISA OPA a few months ago, and I think it may make me the first comptroller that's come to visit, but it really gave me good insights into the system that we're operating together to make sure that our people get paid and our bills get paid and our accounting gets done. It's a complex system. Grows in many ways out of the fiscal crisis when the city's ability to govern itself was at profound risk, like New York City almost lost the ability to govern itself. And a set of people stepped up and built the system that we have today. So thank you to FISA OPA. Let's hear it for them. Thank you to our partners at OMB for working closely with us and with all of you to make sure that this budget that we adopt gets translated into the spending, the procedures, the work that we have to do together. So thank you, OMB. And a special, thank you to our hosts here at NYPD. We're grateful to be able to use this room to launch this process every year. Obviously, we're accounting for the safety efforts and the crime fighting and the work of the PD just like everybody else. And so we're grateful for the use of the auditorium. Thank you. And for keeping us safe too, but today mostly for the use of the auditorium. I want to say the biggest of thank yous to our team, to everybody in the controller's office who manages, this event, who manages the practical work of the audit, but who also manage our agency relationships in such a thoughtful way. There is just this dynamic tension, I call it, that the charter builds into the relationship between the controller and the administration and the agencies. That's the nature of it. We have to work together, and it's our job to function as an oversight agency. And that, builds in a kind of challenge that I experience in the relationship with the mayor. We work together on many things, but my job is an oversight one, and we navigate it both personally as thoughtfully as we can and between our executive team and City Hall. And then all of you are doing that. It's essential to have partnership, and I love so much the presentation that HPD did and the fact that our team said, let's make sure agencies who are doing this work well are front and center, and of course, at the same time, it is our job to say, hey, those receivables, do you really think those folks are still on the hook for the money that they owe us, or our payables as well? Having the dynamic in which we scratch test and in which we also partner. That's what the charter expects of it. And in the same way that it brought you into the room this morning, it brings us into relationship with you in really productive ways that are both partnership and oversight. And there's a lot of people that make that possible in the office. One, first and foremost, so I want you to please join me in saying a huge, huge thank you to the Deputy Controller for Accountancy, Jackie Warburton-Thompson. Jackie, really thank you for navigating that partnership together. In lots of places that I go through the city now, it's surprising how many people know what Directive 10 is and how it matters, from like parents in a school that were able to have laptops as a result of it. But thank you for leading that process so quickly and productively. And thank you for all the work you do to get us here. We're also joined by our Executive Deputy Controller, Francesco Brindisi. Thank you, Francesco, for your leadership and partnership. And then lots of other staff at the Controller's Office. So the rest of the folks from our team, just raise your hands so I can thank you guys for being here. Some in the back, some in the front. Thank you very much for your hard work every single day. I brought, last year's ACFR, and last year's PAFR, the popular annual financial report. Sometimes I challenge whether anyone audited popular because it's cool looking, but I don't know. But what I will say is this: they sit on my desk in a pretty prominent place. They're basically between me and whoever I'm sitting across the desk with. And whatever other report we've most recently done is in kind of a stack behind them. But this one sits out at the front corner. And I really think of it, even though I can't say every day people are asking me about it, as the foundational level of trust between the city of New York and in many ways the rest of the world. Because if people aren't sure that the money we have in the bank is actually how much we have in the bank, that we're clear about what our obligations are to retirees and to vendors and to employees, that we are really clear on what we owe and who owes us, then in a certain way, I don't want to say none of it matters, but every single time we're making a promise, every single time we're, committing to meals for homebound seniors, or figuring out how to deal with a climate emergency, or trying to keep communities safe, or deliver high quality education, it's a financial promise. Every single one of those things is a financial promise, and people will only count on your financial promises if you show your work. And that, to me, is what this document is most of all. It's a lot of other things, and people rely on it for a lot of reasons. But at the end of the day, it's the city of New York showing its work on the financial promises that it made. There's much more time spent on the budget, on the front end, making the promises, than there is on the back end, accounting for them. But if you can't show that they're real, why would the ones you made in the first place matter at all? So it really is a foundational level of trust. And it does matter out in the world. Earlier this year, the Fitch rating agency, which annoyingly had downgraded New York City's credit at the beginning of the COVID crisis, finally put it back up to AA, where it had belonged all along. And one of the core reasons that they cited when they did that was New York City's strong fiscal management. And what they meant by that is what's happening in this room today and what all of you will be doing through the roll and close instructions that are coming over the next few months. And the impact of that, we believe over time, will be that we're able to save hundreds of millions of dollars in the costs that we're spending to borrow, because the rating agencies and our other partners believe that we're telling the truth, see that our financial management is strong, and that is money that we can put into educating our kids and taking care of our seniors and keeping our neighborhoods safe. And that's what's happening right here in this room and lands in this ACFR next fall, and I'm really grateful for all the work you do to make it happen. Really proud to lead the team that Jackie and others steward, and want to say a huge, huge thank you for being here this morning and for being our partners every day. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much again, Brad, for taking the time out of your schedule to be here. I'm really impressed that he actually carried the ACFR today, because it's 500 plus pages now. But who needs a commercial when you have a controller that loves to sing our praises in our publications? So definitely, if you have not seen the PAFR, please go online and get that. So we're going to move forward. I have FISA coming up next, talk about the role in the lapse process. And then next, we're going to get into some of the topics that is in the closing instructions manual that you have in front of you. But we've asked FISA to come in here today, mainly to speak to the role in the lapse process, because each year it seems that there's always a couple of phone calls and a couple of emails saying, Jackie, I had that money there. What happened to it? Well, it's gone. You didn't do what you were supposed to do in the roll lapse process. So that's what this is to go through today. And who best to talk about it than Jean Coogan herself. Jean is a member of the FISA OPA team and has been since 2008. She's an analyst with the FISA Agency Communications and Training Team. Some of you know that as the FAC team. Her group provides citywide users support on FMS, including distributions of FMS bulletins. So those of you who need help on the system and you have questions, you know who to find after the seminar today. This team also creates and maintains the e-learning and training materials on the FISA application portal, which I hope everyone here is really taking full advantage of. So please welcome Jean to the stage as she shares and brings that information. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that you were able to make it out with this smoky weather that we're having. And I really want to thank Jackie for inviting us to do this presentation, and the rest of the controller crowd and office, I guess. We work with them all the time. When we can't answer a question, we go to them and get it straight from the horse's mouth, as it were. So it's a joint effort on most of these things. The roll and lapse process scares a lot of people, I think, and some people don't realize what it's about. So today they asked us to kind of describe it at a high level. This isn't going to be training how to do the screens or anything like that. That'll be in the bulletins. Please do look for them. But today I'm just going to talk about the why, when, where, and how it occurs. And along the way, let you know again about some of the tools that we have available in the system so that you can see what you might need to roll or lapse once we talk about what that is. Okay, so first is why the process occurs. As you're all aware, because you're sitting here, the city's fiscal year ends on June 30th every year. And as Mr. Lander just mentioned, we have to produce that annual report at the end of the summer or at the end of the fiscal year. And part of that is that we cannot have outstanding commitments or obligations at the end of the fiscal year. And what those are, commitments are usually the open line amounts on your requisitions, and the obligations are the open accounting line amounts on your purchase orders, delivery orders, contracts. So in order to close the year, those have to be showing or hitting the new year budget, okay? So all of the events that we have scheduled for this year occur on the weekend. And as you can see in the slides, it's the weekend of July 15th, then August 5th, and then August 12th. And I'll get into those in a little more detail. You'll see that a few times. So there's the three events. The first event, when you have the option, or the agency, all agencies have the option for selecting what they want, what open items they want to roll or lapse for the new fiscal year. And you can do that in time for the first event, which is July 15th. If you don't take any actions before that, then at the second event in August 5th, they'll automatically roll or lapse based on the minimum set each year by the Comptroller's Office. So let's talk about that minimum. It's the same as last year. Some years it does change, but it's the same as last year. So if you were with us last year, if you're new this year, then this is going to be new information. The minimum is on the line amount to roll at $25. Any open lines under the 25 minimum will automatically lapse. Now what that means, a lapse is when it closes the line and makes the open line amount 0, okay? And again, that will only happen at the second event. So at the first event, you would be able to choose to roll those kinds of lines. Now, the automated process that we have in place in the system, I just want to describe it briefly. The roll, or rollover sometimes it's called, it basically creates new document versions. So the document numbers always stay the same, and the line numbers stay the same. But with the new version, it changes all of the open lines from budget fiscal year 2023 to budget fiscal year 2024. So that's the big change. If the lines are lapsed, if you choose to lapse them, or if it's under that $25, the system creates other documents, commodity or non-commodity, the CBDL or the ABDL. And what those documents do, and the process does, it moves the lapsed funds back to 2023, okay? Big thing for you guys in the departments and the agencies is that neither the rolled or lapsed lines can be increased in 2024, okay? Because again, these are obligations that were made in 2023. The idea is we don't always have all of our contracts and purchase orders begin and end July 1st and end on June 30th the next year. Lots of times they start in the middle of the fiscal year and they go to the middle of the next one. So we have to always have it going against the current budget that's approved by the mayor's office and the city council. And so that this is the whole purpose of this thing, is to have those lines in 2024. Okay. Now, some of the tools we have in place are our Info Advantage reports. And those you can access through FMS. And before July 1st, we highly recommend that everybody run an aged open agreements report. And it will tell you, line by line, all of the documents you have in the system that are still open as of the date that you run it. You tell it what date you want, the period, and it'll give you that information, and you can share that with other people in your agency who don't have FMS to review and make a decision, open or close. Are we done with this and we just have another $50 on it, but we finished the payment and we don't need the money anymore? Hopefully that's the case some of the time, so you have more money in next year's budget, okay? After July 1st, when we load up what are called the roll and lapse tables, then we have a whole series of reports that you can run. The main one is the listing of the encumbrance, roll, lapse, pre-selection documents by doc departments for closing BFY. I won't say that again because I'll just trip over it. But basically, it gives you a list of all the things that were loaded into the table. Not everyone can go into those tables to make the changes, but this will give you the list so you can share again with your colleagues and determine which ones should be rolled and which ones should be lapsed. So it's really critical that you do that. Another one that we have is something that's called a pending and draft documents report. And that is critical to run once after July 1st, because anything that's still pending or in draft and not approved won't roll, and you'll basically have to do it again. So if you do have things pending this month, it's important that you get it to final approval. If it's a contract and it needs to go to BCA, then you need to get it there with all the appropriate paperwork. And if it's in-house, you just need to make sure you get those approvals on it. Otherwise, it'll lapse if it's not final. Okay, a brief discussion. This is really small print, so sorry about this, but this is in our bulletins, so you'll see it in greater detail. There's 3 tables that enable people in each department to select and approve your documents. The first one is the OAOD, and basically allows you to select the documents by the document type. So, for instance, if you want all your PODs to lapse, you just mark that and boom, it's done, no matter what's left on it. Or if you want them all to roll, because you have 10 left and the vendors haven't sent the invoices, and you know you're going to have to pay it in July, August, September, whatever, have them roll, okay? And you can do it by the document type. If you don't, that's an option. If you don't want to do it by document type, we have 2 other tables, the summary table, RLPSS, and the detail table, RLPSD. And the summary table enables you to select actions, roll or lapse, by the whole document. Very useful for your contracts that are quite massive. You might have some old lines on there you want to lapse, and the newer lines you want to make sure that they roll. So you have that option. You can either do it by the document or you can do it by the individual lines on the detail table. So detail steps for all of these are going to be in the bulletins as they are every year that we send out in July and August. And they're also on our FISA portal and training books and various other information. The other thing I just want to point out about these tables, it's critical, first off, that you, whoever does do the entries, it's a 2-step process, right? You select what you want, and then there's also a link where you say approve. If you only select and leave the table, then the action won't take place. So it's a 2-step process if any of you are going to be the ones that have to do this. The other thing is with the summary and detail tables, if you're going to sort of mix your actions and not do the whole document, you pick, on the summary, you pick the major action you want to occur, and then you can go down to the detail table and pick a couple of lines maybe that you want to lapse. But always go in that order, not the other way around, or the system doesn't handle it well. So I just want to point that one out as well. But main thing, always make sure that whatever you've done is flagged as approved. That's a really important piece of information. Okay, now let's talk about when these occur. Again, I had mentioned the dates. First rollover event, July 15th. It's on a weekend. You can ignore this one if you want and just wait till the second event, make your settings at that point. But if you ignore this one, this is the only one where you can choose any lines under the minimum to roll. Okay, if you don't choose them at this event, then they will automatically lapse at the second event. You don't have an option. So just heads up on that one. Okay? The other big thing at this time is we send out a bulletin every year for anyone that's still using the DMSS system, the DCAS system, to place their orders. And so you get delivery orders that have 857 on the header. You're not going to be able to do those yourself in the roll lapse tables because it's by department ID on the header. So there's a special report that can be run in Info Advantage, and there'll be instructions about this in one of our bulletins beginning of July. If you have any of those kinds of documents and you want to make sure the lines roll, even if they're under 25, because they're things like WB Mason, those are a big one, okay, or some other ones that might be there, you want to get that into, follow the instructions to send it to FISA so it gets done before July 15th, okay? So that's the two big things for the July 15th. Okay, just a reiteration. It happens on a weekend, on a Saturday, so your deadline is actually end of day on Friday the 14th. That's why I have a separate slide that is going to repeat this whole thing. But basically, you put your updates in to roll or lapse, you get your delivery orders instructions into FISA on the turnaround report, and just keep in mind, this is the only time to roll a line under $25, okay? Second roll, that occurs the weekend of August 5th, all right? During this event, the automatic processes kick in. So if you do nothing, then all of your documents will roll or lapse based on that $25. Anything under will lapse, anything over will roll. You can, however, select lines that are over 25 to lapse if they are completed, if the obligation is done and you thought something was going to cost, $5,000 and it turns out you got a deal with the vendor and it's only $49.99, you can, well, that would lapse anyway, that's bad, but you can tell it to lapse anything that you don't need to, you're not going to receive the goods or services any longer. It's a good idea to lapse it as well. Okay? But this is when the minimum takes effect. Oops, there we go. So again, complete your entries by the Friday, end of day, August 4th. There's the minimums again. The default is to roll, and the lines above and below 25 will roll or lapse, okay? Big thing here is if you are one of the people that goes into the tables, the option by default is no action, okay? So if you leave it at no action, for this second one, the system will ignore that because the automatic process will take over. So we've had some calls from people, I set it at no action on the second one, why did you lapse my documents? And it's because the automatic process takes effect at that point. So the no action really is only good for the first roll event, all right? All right, so during this process, we have a few other reports you can run. On occasion, we'll go through the roll and lapse process on a weekend, and some things will be rejected for various reasons. Sometimes there isn't budget in the next year if you're rolling. Sometimes there's some sort of missing information that the contract is so old, now there's a rule in place in the system that there has to be information, but that wasn't required when it was originally entered. Those will stop the roll or lapse from occurring. It'll reject the documents. So we have a report, handily enough, in Info Advantage of rejected roll lapse documents. Good idea between the second event and the last one to run that to see if you have any rejections, see if you can figure out how to fix it. If you're unsure about the error message, And I would expect that most people, the error messages we have are kind of cryptic. So we actually have to go to our accounting team sometimes to ask them what the heck it means and what should we do about it. So we will do that for you. You run the report, you find that there's some kind of weird error message that says, I can't run, like BFY profile is a fun one. And we will find out and direct you how you can resolve the document in order for it to roll or lapse as you want it to. Actually, to roll if you wanted to. Okay, so please do give us a call or an email to our call center if you have any issues during this process. All right? There's some other InfoAdvantage reports. Again, all of these are listed in our bulletins we send out, so if you're busy trying to read this my small script, don't worry about it. It will be in the bulletin as well, and they're posted on the portal as well. We have a report that lists what have mixed actions under one commodity line. If you mark under one commodity line that you want to roll one line and lapse the other two, the system won't do that. It has to, everything under one commodity line, every accounting line, has to be the same action, either a roll or a lapse. You can mix it up between commodity lines on a larger document, but not on these lines. So we have a report that would indicate to you if you have any of those. And so you can go back in and change it to make it work. And again, there's the pending and draft document listing. If by, the beginning of August, you still have some pending or draft documents that you need to have approved, this will be your last chance to have them approved before the roll or lapse occurs again. Otherwise, whatever those changes are basically dead in the water, and you'll have to do them again in the new fiscal year. Okay? All right. So again, the last event, August 12th, the weekend, so make your corrections August 11th, that Friday. All right? As I reiterated before, any rejected documents will lapse. So if they're not corrected, they will lapse. We also do a couple other lapses at this event, after this event, but that same weekend. One is for all pre-encumbrances with open lines. That means your requisitions, your RQC1, RQN1, there's not so many of those in the system, but if there are any, and the IRQ, the intercity requisition. Those will lapse if there's any open line amounts on them. Intracity purchase orders, IPOC and IPOT amounts. Again, if there's open lines on it that haven't been referenced to be paid, those will also lapse, okay? So that's the other thing that goes on that weekend. All right. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is after this roll and lapse happens, what do your documents look like? And what effect does it have on your purchasing and payments going forward? As I mentioned before, all the document IDs and accounting line numbers remain the same. They don't change. There'll be a new version, and the new version becomes the final version. The old version is a historical version. It says historical, so it's a historical final. So the 2024 version is going to say final. That's important if, as you go forward, if you start having a list of the same document number on the document catalog and you need to do another modification, always go for the one that says final. Because if you go to historical final, it won't let you do anything else. Okay? Again, accounting lines that are rolled can only be paid or decreased. They cannot be increased. So if you need to add more money to the purchase order or the contract, you need to add a new line. You can't add money to a rolled line, all right? The other very important thing is the rolled encumbrance lines are funded from out of the 2024 budget. So if they were originally 2023 and we roll them, it takes up the money and uses the money and commits the money in 2024. So if you have a purchase order that you had for like, what do people, water, yeah, I don't know, water. I've seen this a lot of times. And there's still $150 or $1,000 left on it, so it rolls. someone doesn't realize that, they do a new one, they're like, wait a minute, after a while, they're out of money in a certain budget code or object because of these rolled documents. So you need to look out, go through, make sure if you don't need to spend that money anymore on that document, you're going to be doing new ones, or for different things, that you go in and lapse them so it's not taking up your money. The fiscal year 2023 budget balances are not rolled along with the encumbrances, only the encumbrances. Only the obligation, which kindly the comptroller described what those are. Those are our promises to pay money, okay? But it always has to come out of the current budget fiscal year. Whatever city council allocates on the appropriation unit and you decide to divvy up on your budget and object codes, that's what you can spend. So you need to make sure during this overlap period you kind of settle the books, and this is one of the ways that we do it automatically in the system rather than you having to change the budget fiscal year on every document you have in the system. Okay, so that's the roll and lapse on an overview. Just want to tell you some additional information, which is how you get in touch and where you'll find the details. We have bulletins about the roll and lapse during the whole overlap period. A number of them come out right like the first week in July 3rd, 4th, whatever is our first work day. Second, I think it is this year, actually, now I think about it. So those will come out. Please look out for them. If you know you have some new people working with you, we may not have you on the mailing list. Please share with your colleagues so that everybody gets them. We also post them on the FISA portal, so they're all there. And last year's are there if you just want a heads up on the process, even though the dates won't be the same. We have training books and e-learning on the FISA application portal. Roll processing in great detail, how to do all the step-by-step. That'll be in the bulletin as well. We have an overview of the year-end closing, for all the different processes that go on, just an overview of it. So that's kind of helpful, especially if you're new to the city, just to know all these different pieces that go on. Online reporting has instructions on how to run the reports, and there's budget inquiries as well to be able to look and see where your money is, all right? And last but not least, is how to get in touch with us at FISA. Please send an email to our call center. You can call them as well, but an email is really great because then you can include a screen capture if you have error messages on something. You can include the document ID if you're having a problem. We like to look at them first, see if we can figure it out so we're not spending a lot of time trying to figure it out with you on the phone. We can just get right back to you and go over what needs to be done. And also, please always provide a phone number in your email that we can get back to you, either a phone number and email address. Okay, I know a lot of people just have their signature, but phone number is really great as well because we don't always have your latest phone number. All right, that's it. That's roll and lapse in a nutshell. I hope you enjoy it this year. Look out for our bulletins.
Oh, that was a good refresher right there. Rolling laps is something that you'll never get used to at times, but timing is important, so I hope everyone got something from that. I know we're all experiencing a lot of turnover in our areas, and you have new teams, so it would be a good reminder for them to just refer to the presentation from today, as well as we're grateful for our IT team. Michaela's here recording, so definitely direct your staff to take a look at the recording of today's seminar if helpful. And the main thing to carry away from this is pay attention to the FMS bulletins. So we are going to get into a few of the topics outlined in the manual to hopefully be helpful to you. It won't take us forever, it won't take us long, don't worry about it. But behind me here, you'll notice where you'll find the closing instructions manual on our website, as well as the presentations and the recording from today. It will all be posted on this webpage so that you know where to find everything afterwards. Also, afterwards, please be sure to see our inquiry tables on the side. We have lovely controller's office staff and folks from FISA. Wave to me, guys. Willing and able to help you and answer your questions. So please take advantage of that today. Also, you notice in your folders there's a survey. If you could please do me a favor and fill that out. And as you drop it off on your way out after the presentations, there's some free goodies back there, so help yourself. So now I am going to call Minu Chen up. This is our Unit Chief of Revenue, everything revenue, money, money, money. This is Minu, and please give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Good morning, everyone. My name is Minu Chen. I'm the Unit Chief of Revenue Monitoring. Today, I will be covering two topics, general and capital fund revenue and single audit. Let's start with general and capital fund revenue, which could be found on Section C of the Closing Instruction Manual. After the FY22 year-end close and throughout FY23, our revenue unit has worked closely with you and your team to address outstanding items listed on the FY22 certification package reports. We have had walkthroughs with several agencies, as well as regular communication on a weekly and monthly basis. We have also reached out to individual agencies to address specific questions and concerns. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all and your team for your efforts in getting those outstanding items removed from those reports. Throughout our communication with you, we've learned that there has been a lot of turnover of staff in various roles within the agencies. If you believe it would be helpful to receive a walkthrough of the FMS revenue reports and how to best utilize them, you can contact our revenue units or meet me at the equity table at the conclusion of the closing instructions for further discuss. We also learned from you that you need more time to run and submit certification reports after the revenue processing cutoff date. So this year, we are extending the due date by 1 week. You will have until September 15 to submit your FY23 PW13 revenue reconciliation and certification package. Please bear in mind, although you have until September 15 to submit, the certification package must correspond to your final revenue for the fiscal year end reported as of September 8th, which leads me to the reminder that September 8th is the last day to book any FY23 receivables and to process any FY23 revenue realizations. Please try to not wait until September 8th to submit your FMS documents, as we have to review them. Earlier submissions of the documents provides us with more time to review the documents and communicate with you before the deadlines if there are any outstanding issues. Now I want to take a moment to focus on the details of what should be included as part of the certification package. The certification report and status submitted by you allowed us to equip your agency to better account for your revenue. This in turn ensures that the city's financials are accurately reporting its revenue condition. So you will notice that the certification package includes several reports. It's important that all open receivables include an explanation on the RAF PYA report with regards to the anticipated receipt of funds in order to assist the revenue unit with the follow-up status throughout the year. Same as we did last year, we will be adding one column, agency comments / explanation at the end of this report for you to provide a status and feedback. The RAF PYA report is also presented on the screen as well. If receivable needs to remain open longer than the 3 years period as stated in Directive 21, so for this fiscal year, that would mean anything FY 2019 and prior. Please ensure you have the supporting documentation readily available upon request. The supporting documentation should be in the form of correspondence with the grantor, internal memorandum documenting discussion with the grantor, or other proof that the receivable should remain open. For details, please refer to Directive 21, which can be downloaded from the Comptroller's website. Remember, the certification provided by you is utilized as support for your agency final reported number for the fiscal year. And similar to last year, it will allow our office to be able to follow up with you throughout the upcoming fiscal year and request updates as FY24 progresses. As you have been updating OMB with your outstanding grant receivable and unapplied cash quarterly, you can use the research you have done for OMB to prepare for the revenue certification. Let's move on to common oversight to avoid. I have highlighted 4 items that agency have commonly overlooked or skipped in the past. First item, during the month of July through September, we have 2 fiscal years open. If you don't specify period 13 on your document, the revenue realization will be processed in FY24. Please be careful when you're entering the period on your document during the 1st to 7th of July when there are 3 periods are open, which is period 12, period 13 of FY23, and period 1 of FY24. Second item, the original budget fiscal year in the header and accounting line should never be manually changed. When you create a document for realizing revenue, the budget fiscal year will infer from the receivable documents when you enter the receivable document ID as a reference. Next item, submitting FMS document for approval without contact information, explanation, and supporting documentation attached. When creating a new document or document modification, please ensure to include your name, phone number, and email address in the document. This way, we know who to reach out to if we have a question during our review. An explanation is needed for all revenue documents. For modification documents, an explanation for what is being modified should always be stated in the header section of the document. Supporting documentation should always be attached to the document for ease of review and to provide an audit trail. This is extremely important for the creation of URE and RE documents so that we know what the calculations are made of. Last item. There are instances when agencies create new RE document without referencing the URE document that was previously created in FMS for the same receivable prior to year-end period 13. If the URE is not referenced on the RE document, this could lead to open items not being accurately reflected in FMS report. You should constantly review the age open URE reports to ensure that these issues are monitored and resolved. Now that we have discussed general and capital fund revenue, let's discuss another topic, single audit, which could be found on Section G of the Closing Instruction Manual. The pass-through grantor contract ID, the pass-through grantor contract or ID numbers are the numbers that the pass-through grantor assigns to your agreement with them. For example, if you receive federal grant money through a New York State agency, that contract number assigned to that agreement with the state should be indicated in this column of the FedEST report. If there are multiple contract or ID number associated with a particular assistance listing number, also known as ALN, please be sure to list them all in this column as well. In regards to federal grant money being passed through to subrecipient, this is the case in where a city agency passed federal grant money to an external party. You will report the total liquidated amount that you actually pay out to subrecipient during FY23 by ALN on the FedEST report. Although we don't need the detail for each of the amount that were passed through to a subrecipient, you should retain supporting documentation and have it readily available in case questions are raised during the audit. Please note, if your agency was mentioned in a corrective action report or received an audit finding from Grant Thornton, these items are discussed with the city's audit committee. Your agency should make every effort to address this item and come up with resolutions in order to close out open items, especially if this is a continuous finding. If you have any questions related to these two topics, please feel free to email the revenue unit. I will also be at the inquiry table at the conclusion of the closing instruction. Please feel free to come by if you have any questions or just wanted to introduce yourself. Thank you very much for being here today. I look forward to working with you during the fiscal year close. Now I would like to introduce the next presenter, Amai Ali.
Thank you, Minu. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amai Ali, and I'm the Unit Chief for Ledger Maintenance. I'll briefly be going over some important information as it relates to impress funds and designated funds certifications. Section B, impress funds. The impress fund accountability reports are due by July 21st. The last day to process PR1s for fiscal year 23 is July 7th, and no fiscal year 24 PR1s should be processed until your accountability report for fiscal year 23 is approved. There are some challenges that we have faced in the past related to submissions for this project and some important points to note. Let's take a look at the screen, which currently has worksheet A displayed. We have added a new column for the PR1 date on this worksheet, column A4. The PR1s in this column should be the ones that are processed towards the end of June for replenishments where the check or EFT has not been deposited in the bank. For the next two items, let's take a look at the screen which currently has worksheet C displayed. If you notice, there are certain cells that are highlighted yellow. Please do not make any entries in these cells as these cells contain formulas. Furthermore, for any cells that are highlighted in blue, you should make your entries into these cells. I would like to now turn your attention to row C8 at the bottom. The amount that you get in this cell should be the same amount that should match your J2I document in FMS. The next topic, designated fund certifications, section O. As a quick reminder, no fiscal year 23 transactions are allowed after July 7th for Fund 600 or Fund 700 accounts, also known as the designated funds. The certifications for all your active accounts are due by July 14th. This includes accounts with zero balances. The annual designated fund certification and representation form, which is in the manual and can be found on the closing instructions webpage, should be utilized when certifying all your active accounts. Looking forward to fiscal year 24, if you're requesting new accounts or closing any inactive accounts for the current reporting fiscal year, please utilize the applicable form located on the directives webpage under Directive 27. The section where you can find this form is currently highlighted on the screen at the bottom. Furthermore, for any new accounts, please utilize the flowchart in Directive 27 to determine the type of account. Please note all restricted funds accounts that are reported under Fund 600 are listed in the ACFR's G7 schedule. For those of you who are not familiar with the G7 schedule, it begins on page 359 in the fiscal year 22 ACFR. It is important that you notify our office if a subfund name needs to be corrected and that the name accurately reflects what the fund represents. If any correction is needed to the subfund name, please email the request to the designated fund's mailbox. On May 26th, we sent out emails with instructions on these projects. If you're working on any of these projects and did not receive the email, please provide your contact information at our Teams table located on your left side, and we'll be glad to assist you, or you can reach us via email. Agency assignment schedules were also sent out earlier in the year. If anyone would like to verify who we currently have as a direct contact for their agency for any of the subject matters that are included in the instructions manual that you received today, you can visit the table on your left side, the first table that is labeled Agency Contacts, and we will be making the change on the spot. Thank you for making last year's closeout successful, and we look forward to another great year. I would like to now introduce our next presenter, Jessica Sanchez.
Thank you, Umair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Sanchez, and I am the Division Chief of Capital and Fixed Assets. I will be covering the capital sections of the manual, sections H and J, and lease sections K and L. In regards to capital projects expenditures accruals, section H, the last date to enter fiscal year 23 capital expenditure payment requests with period 12 is July 7th. September 1st is the last date to submit capital payment requests with service dates on or before June 30th, 2023. In Section J, the capital asset certification attests to agency compliance with Controller's Directive 1. Agencies are required to reconcile internal records to FMS accounting for capital asset inventory. The item I would like to highlight is the mass depreciation and revaluation event, which is scheduled for July 29th. As part of closing process for FY23, fixed asset documents such as FA, FC, FD, FI, and FT must be approved final with the exception of the FN. We ask that if you have fixed asset documents currently pending level 3, to please either approve them and if not needed, discard them, as there should be no pending documents in FMS awaiting level 3 or 5 approval except the FN. There are 2 fair run events coming up on June 17th and July 8th, which is the last fair for FY23. We encourage agencies to finalize these documents as soon as possible, allowing enough time for the capital unit to perform the review. We appreciate your cooperation in this effort, as any pending or rejected documents that reference existing assets will cause those assets not to be depreciated or revaluated on the July 29th event. For the fixed asset disposition document, the FD, please make sure that FD documents have the reason for the disposition in the extended document description. For impairments, please remember that this is a year-round responsibility for all agencies. Agencies are responsible for testing and documenting the tests performed. Please have all required backup documentation available, as this is a recurring audit request. For more information, please see Directive 30. Once all fixed asset documents have been processed, we're expecting the capital asset certification letter to be submitted by August 4th, which should represent the final asset inventory for the fiscal year. This concludes the capital topics, and now I will move on to lease reporting. As we have implemented new governmental accounting standards, we are always looking for ways to improve and streamline processes while ensuring accuracy in our reporting. Sections K and L may be removed in future fiscal years as we look to utilize reporting tools to gather information. If your agency has lease agreements, what will greatly assist us is when creating lease-related contract documents in FMS to please include detail in the document name, contract purpose, and extended description that describe the specifics of what has changed in the terms, such as a renewal or assignment. Looking at these slides, I want to highlight NYPD and DCAS for setting a good example of what to include, which would aid in this process. On the left side, we see the document name and contract purpose with the lease space address and indicating that this is an extension. On the right, the extended document description explains this as well. Similarly, this next set of screenshots shows that the document name, contract purpose, and extended description were utilized to indicate the lease space address and to show that this is a change in ownership. We appreciate your cooperation in incorporating these best practices when creating lease-related contracts, as it will assist us in our lease reporting process. If you have any questions about any of these topics or about anything else capital or lease related, please feel free to reach out by email or to stop by our inquiry table. This concludes the closing instructions walkthrough, and now I'd like to turn it back to Jacqueline Thompson.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you all from accountancy. Did you all learn a lot from today? Did you get a lot from this? Am I hearing you clearly? Well, all right then, I love that. So glad today was helpful. I definitely do not want to forget to mention Mr. Neil Matthew, our Executive Director of FISA OPA, who is here today. Definitely, we like to take recognition of the man who makes sure we get paid. All right. And Mr. Greg Dollinger, who is joining him, and Mr. Greg Dollinger is the director of everything that Jackie needs done in FMS. That's his real title. And definitely the FISA OPA team in the back, CJ, Maria, Janice, we love you guys. Jean, thank you for being here at HPD. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us your best practices. I'm pretty sure folks will reach out to you. It was definitely great information to share. Thanks to all of these folks here today. And don't want to forget to mention our Bureau Chief, Katrina Stauffer, who likes to stay in the background. Katrina, get up, let me see. Come on, come on, come on. All right, there we go. And our Bureau Coordinator, Yvonne Jeffers, who makes all of this loveliness happen today. So be sure to visit our inquiry tables on the side. I'm telling you, those who are watching, who will watch the recording, they're going to be upset that they missed this opportunity to get real-time answers and not have to wait for an email response. So definitely take advantage of the inquiry tables. Grab a box of breakfast for lunch, snack, brunch, tomorrow, something. And be sure to leave the survey. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate you. Be safe out there. Cover up.